The languages are very different. In the Netherlands, it's very clear Dutch. It's Hollands is kind of how you say it. You just speak a very proper Dutch for the most part. There are dialects. If you go from the south to the north, you can definitely hear the different dialects, but for the most part, it's Dutch. But then Belgium, it's still Dutch, but they call it more of like Flemish. They call it Vlaams, and it's more of a French influenced Dutch. It's a lot softer. In the Netherlands, they have the guttural G, which is really hard and strong. You can hear it from a mile away. But the Belgian G is very soft and light. It almost has a little like sing-songy. You know how in English, like almost Scottish people sound a little like sing-songy and light and fun? That's kind of how you can compare like American English to Scottish English is like Dutch to Flemish. The dialects in Belgium differ a lot more from city to city than I feel like in the Netherlands. I was living in this tiny town, Lokeren, for a while. It's so small, and so the dialect is so prominent. Everyone kind of has their own words and own lingo for certain things, and if you go even just a city over, it can be totally different. It's just super interesting to learn about the different, dialects. Some people consider them different languages, Flemish and Dutch, even though it is the same. It's just two different dialects for sure. The process that I learned it is I went to kind of like a language study school for about 6 weeks here in Utah, where I was with a whole group of people that were planning on moving to the Netherlands to be part of this missionary program, and we learned as much Dutch as we possibly could in 6 weeks. I did not know any before I started this process. It was not easy. I feel like I learned it at a very quick pace, and so we just kind of got all the basics. We learned how to, have a very simple conversation, how to introduce ourselves, how to kind of at least have a grasp on the basics that we would need for when we got there. And then when we actually flew over and moved to the Netherlands, we were paired with people who had already been there for a couple of months, so they had a grasp on the language, and then we just kind of tried. It takes a lot of mess ups to finally get a language, but yeah, we just did our best to just try, just talk to people, practice, and you can end up saying lots of funny things. I have quite a bit of experiences where I would say something and everyone would laugh and I would have no idea what I actually said. It was definitely hard. You had to do lots of studying. We had about an hour a day where we would just study the language. The best way to learn any language is to just practice, to go out, talk to people. I would say after about 6 months, I felt confident being very conversational. I could understand everything that people were saying to me, and I felt confident in responding. It did make it hard because I served my first 6 months in the Netherlands, and then when I moved to Belgium, because the dialects did change, it kind of felt like a reset. Like I kind of had to scramble to understand people again. So that did make it hard with the different dialects, but it worked out pretty well. So I had been living in Belgium for about 9 months, and then my very last month when I was living there, I moved all the way from the very bottom of Belgium all the way to the very top of the Netherlands. That is like the most drastic dialect change that you can have ever in between those two places. And so I felt like I was brand new to the Netherlands all over again when I went up there, even though I had been there for about 17 months speaking the language, and I felt so confident in it. It was a complete reset because of the new lingo, the new words, the new dialects. So it was definitely a challenge, but the Dutch people were, like I said, so helpful and so kind and so willing to help me, because there's like no Americans that come to learn Dutch. Everyone there speaks English, so I could have just truly had no problems just speaking English the entire 18 months that I was there. But the fact that I was, trying and putting in the effort to learn their language, they were so appreciative of that, and so they were just so helpful in helping me improve my Dutch.